Let's start with a big question. What is the single most important purpose of your existence, according to a foundational religious text?
That's the huge question we're exploring today.
Welcome to the deep dive,
We're taking a deep exploration into, well, it's an ancient Islamic text, Kitab al-Tawhid.
which translates to the Book of Monotheism.
Exactly, the Book of Monotheism. And this isn't just, some historical document. It's foundational. It really distills profound insights into Tawhid, the absolute oneness of God.
And its counterpoint, too, right?
Shirk. And its crucial counterpoint, yes, shirk associating partners with God.
So our mission today really is to navigate these sources. We want to extract that core message of monotheism, understand the immense benefits, and also pretty significant warnings against polytheism.
Right.
We'll unpack the wisdom, maybe some surprising details, and what it all means for you. The goal is to give you a clear, well-informed perspective.
And I'm ready to help synthesize all this diverse information. We're aiming for insights that genuinely reshape understanding.
Okay, let's unpack this then. The source jumps right in asking, what is the purpose of creation? For jinn and humans. It's pretty direct.
It is, and the answer given in the text is just as direct, pulling straight from God's word, the Qur'an. It says, jinnic humans were created for no other purpose than to worship God.
No other purpose.
That's how it's presented. Not just a suggestion, but the core singular reason for our existence.
Okay, so was this message just for a specific time or people? Or did the sources say it was broader?
That's a great question. And no, the sources really emphasize its universality. A messenger was sent to every single nation.
Every nation.
Every nation, with the same consistent command, worship God alone, and avoid takuta.
And Takud is?
Takud is essentially anything worshipped besides God. Could be idols, could be other powers, anything taking God's place.
Got it.
And you see this echoed in the Qur'an itself. Verses like, and your Lord has decreed that you worship none but him,
Right.
and worship God and do not associate anything with him. It's very clear.
And didn't one of the companions mention something similar from the prophet?
Yes, Ibn Masud. He related the prophet's advice on what God has forbidden, and the very first thing mentioned was not associating anything with him. It's priority number one.
Okay, building on that, there's this narration from Mu'adh ibn Jabal. That one really seemed to highlight the practical side of it all.
Yes. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, asks Mu'adh this very direct question. Does he know God's right over his servants? And conversely, the servant's right over God.
This must have been quite a moment.
Absolutely. And Mu'adh's response, or rather the Prophet's explanation to him was, well, it was striking. God's right is that his servants worship him alone, no partners. Simple.
Okay, that makes sense. But the servant's right.
That's the part that really lands. The servant's right over God is that he will not punish those who worship him alone without associating any partners.
Wow. So a kind of guarantee.
A divine promise, yes. And the text even notes this was something many companions weren't actually aware of. It wasn't common knowledge initially.
That really does highlight the significance of Tawhid then. It's not just abstract theology.
Not at all. It's framed as the fundamental right of God, and simultaneously a guarantee for his servants if they fulfill it. It completely reshapes your perspective on what's truly important.
So what does this mean for you listening?
Well, it really simplifies the core mission of life, doesn't it? The purpose isn't some complex riddle. According to this, it's a clear, singular focus, sincere worship of the one God. It kind of frees you from seeking purpose or validation in, 1,000 other places. It anchors everything.
Okay, so if that's the grand purpose, the why, what about the what's in it for me? What are the payoffs for truly embracing Tawhid? The sources seem quite compelling on this.
Oh, absolutely compelling. The text explicitly promises security and guidance, specifically for those who believe, and crucially, do not mix their faith with zulm, with injustice.
And injustice here means?
In this context, the primary interpretation is shirk, polytheism, because associating partners with God is seen as the ultimate injustice, violating his unique right.
Right.
And look at the hadith from Ubadah ibn al-Samit. It's quite extraordinary. It says whoever testifies, truly testifies that there's no God but God alone, that Muhammad is his servant and messenger.
Okay.
And importantly, affirms that Jesus is God's servant, his word given to Mary, a spirit from him, and believes in heaven and hell.
That whole package of core belief.
That whole package, if someone truly holds that, God will admit them to paradise regardless of their other deeds.
Regardless of their deeds. That's That's huge.
It is huge. It highlights the immense weight and power of pure, unadulterated belief in God's oneness.
Does that simplify things, or does it maybe raise other questions about, effort and action?
It definitely simplifies the foundation. Another hadith reinforces this. Whoever says La ilaha illallah, there is no God but God, seeking God's pleasure by it.
Sincerely, basically.
Sincerely seeking God's face, yes. God will forbid the fire for him and make him immune to hellfire.
Wow.
And then there's that incredible analogy, you remember, the scales.
Oh, right. The heavens and the earth on one side.
Exactly. The hadith, narrated by Abu Sa'id al-Khudri, says if the 7 heavens and the 7 earths were put on one pan of a scale.
Which is, unimaginably vast.
Unimaginably vast. And La ilaha illallah was placed on the other pan. La ilaha illallah would outweigh them all.
That's an incredible image. Just the sheer weight of that statement.
It truly is. Now, the source material is careful here. It notes different chains of narration for this. One chain is mentioned as weak.
Okay.
But another version from Abdullah ibn Amr ibn al-As is considered good because it has supporting evidence. But the core message is consistent.
Which is?
It just underscores the vastness of God's grace and the immense reward tied to pure monotheism. It even mentions the expiation of sins. Holding fast to Tawhid can wipe away wrongdoing.
Okay, so beyond the general rewards, the source then mentions this.
Yep.
Elite group, 70,000 people.
Yes. A very special, privileged group who enter paradise directly. No reppening, no punishment, just straight in.
What sets them apart? What defines this group?
Well, the concept is introduced with Abraham as an example. He's praised specifically for being upright, a Hanif, a pure monotheist, and not one of the polytheists.
So it starts with that absolute monotheism.
It does. And then a hadith from Hussein ibn Abd al-Rahman gives specific characteristics. These are people who, listen to this, they do not seek ruqya.
Ruqya being?
Like incantations, charms, seeking cures through specific spiritual formulas requested from others. They also don't believe in bad omens.
Right. No superstition about birds flying or things like that.
Exactly. Nor do they use cauterization, that's an old medical practice, burning skin for treatment. And the final crucial point, upon their Lord they rely.
So it's not just about performing certain acts, but also about what they don't do, what they refrain from.
Precisely. It's what they avoid and where their ultimate trust lies. It's that deep reliance on God alone.
Reliance. Tawakkul? Is that the term?
That's the term tawakkul. The text identifies this complete reliance as the sort of, the comprehensive quality that defines them. It's not passive resignation, mind you. No, the text notes how the companions understood this. They realized this high status was achieved through action, through a conscious choice of reliance and avoidance. It means actively rejecting, seeking benefit, or fearing harm from anyone or anything other than God.
Letting go of those maybe cultural or superstitious crutches.
Exactly that, and recentering everything on God.
There was that interesting detail, too, about Ukasha.
Right. That really illustrates it. Ukasha ibn Misan, one of the companions, heard this description and immediately asked the Prophet, "Pray that I am one of them."
And the Prophet said?
He said, "You are one of them." Just like that.
Wow. But then
another man stood up and asked the same thing, and the Prophet replied, "Ukasha has preceded you."
What do you make of that?
It really drives home the depth of that reliance, maybe the spontaneity and sincerity of Ukasha's conviction in that moment. Makes you think, doesn't it? About our own lives, the power of complete reliance versus, resorting to superstitious practices, especially when things get tough.
Definitely food for thought. Okay, so we've seen the immense rewards. But the sources don't shy away from the warnings, do they? The flip side? Shirk.
Not at all. The warnings are just as stark, if not more so. The text states it unequivocally, quoting the Qur'an. God does not forgive associating partners with him. Full stop.
He doesn't forgive shirk.
He doesn't forgive shirk if someone dies upon it without repenting. However, it also says he may forgive sins lesser than that for whoever he wills.
Which just highlights the unique gravity of shirk itself.
Immense gravity. Think about Abraham's prayer, the great patriarch of monotheism. He prayed, "And keep me and my sons away from worshiping idols."
Even Abraham feared it.
Even Abraham. The text points this out. If prophets feared falling into shirk, how much more should ordinary people be vigilant? It's not just about, grand statues.
Right. When we think shirk, maybe we picture ancient idol worship. But do these sources talk about more subtle forms, things people might encounter, or even do without realizing?
Oh, absolutely. And this is crucial. The text identifies the most feared form of shirk, especially for people trying to be righteous, as a riya.
Riya, that's showing off.
Showing off, yes. Doing good deeds not purely for God, but to be seen and praised by others. It's considered a form of minor shirk, but incredibly dangerous.
Why so dangerous?
Because the sources say on the day of resurrection, God will tell those who practiced riya, essentially, go to those you were showing off for in the world and see if you can find any reward with them.
Oof. That's a powerful warning. Very practical.
Very practical. It hits right at the intention behind our actions. And then there are hadith that are even more direct about the consequences of major shirk. Ibn Masud narrated the Prophet saying, whoever dies invoking another besides God will enter the fire.
Invoking anyone or anything else alongside God.
Yes. And another hadith from Jabir confirms the stark choice. Whoever meets God not associating anything with him will enter paradise, and whoever meets him associating something with him will enter the fire.
It really forces you to reflect, doesn't it? What seemingly small acts in our daily lives, maybe seeking validation or placing trust in things other than God, could they unknowingly edge us closer to some form of shirk?
That's exactly the question it prompts, constant vigilance about intention and reliance.
So if Tawhid is this critical, this central, how did the Prophet and his followers actually spread this message? What method do the sources show us?
The sources are very clear on the method. Call to God with insight. That's described as the way of the Prophet and his followers. And it means leading with the most fundamental truth first.
Leading with Tawhid itself.
Exactly. Look at the instructions given to Mu'adh when he was sent as an envoy to Yemen.
The same Mu'adh from before.
The very same. The Prophet told him explicitly, you are going to a people from the people of the book, so let the first thing you call them to be. And he specified either la ilaha illallah, testifying there is no God but God, or another narration says to single out God, Tawhid.
The first thing. Before anything else.
Before anything else. Only after that, if they accept the message of Tawhid, then inform them about the 5 daily prayers. And if they accept the prayers, then inform them about the mandatory charity, zakat.
Wow. That's a really clear step-by-step approach. Tawhid first, even before prayer.
It's a deliberate prioritization. It shows that the foundation, the belief in God's absolute oneness, has to be established first. Without it, the other pillars, while essential, lack their ultimate grounding.
That really underscores its foundational nature.
Absolutely. And think about the story of Ali at the Battle of Khaybar. The Prophet healed Ali's eyes miraculously, then gave him the battle standard.
Right, a famous incident.
But what were the instructions? Before engaging in fighting, the Prophet told Ali, proceed calmly, invite them to Islam, and inform them of what is obligatory upon them from God's rights.
Invite them first. Even in a battle situation.
Even then, the call to Tawhid comes first. And then the Prophet added that incredible incentive. By God, if he guides one man through you, it is better for you than possessing red camels.
Red camels being a symbol of great wealth back then.
The most prized possession, yes. So, guiding just one person to the truth of monotheism is presented as incredibly valuable, more valuable than the best worldly possessions.
So for you listening, this gives a clear sense of priority, doesn't it? Whether in personal growth or guiding others, start with that absolute foundational principle, the oneness of God.
That's the prophetic model presented here.
Now, we keep coming back to this phrase, La ilaha illallah. We've heard its reward, its weight. But what does it truly mean, according to these sources? Is it just saying the words?
No, definitely not just saying the words. The text digs much deeper. It clarifies that this declaration is a complete package. It's an affirmation of God alone and a complete disavowal, a rejection of anything else that is worshipped.
Affirmation and rejection. Both parts are key.
Both are absolutely essential. Look at the Quranic verse mentioned. Say, invoke those you claim besides God. They possess no power to remove adversity from you or to change it to good. The text says this directly refutes anyone who invokes righteous people or saints or angels seeking help. It identifies that practice as major shirk.
So calling on anyone other than God for help falls under this.
According to this interpretation, yes. Because it attributes power to remove harm or grant benefit to someone other than the sole creator.
Okay. What else helps define it?
There's the explanation of that verse about the people of the book, Jews and Christians, taking their scholars and monks as lords besides God.
Right. How did the text explain that? It wasn't literal worship, was it?
No, the explanation given based on a hadith where the Prophet explained it to Adi ibn Hatim was that it meant obeying these religious figures when they made permissible what God forbade or forbade what God made permissible, obeying them in disobedience to God.
So setting up human authority against divine law.
Precisely. And then there's Abraham's powerful declaration quoted from the Qur'an, "Indeed, I am disassociated from that which you worship, except for he who created me."
Dissociated from false
Yeah.
gods, affirming the creator.
Exactly. The source explicitly states, this is the meaning of La ilaha illallah. It's the essence of bara, disavowal from falsehood, and wala, loyalty to God alone.
Okay, here's a part that really stood out to me. A hadith that seems to define it even more sharply.
Which one are you thinking of?
The one that says the declaration isn't complete, that someone's life and property aren't protected just by saying the words, unless they also disbelieve in whatever is worshipped besides God.
Yes. That is a crucial clarification presented in the text. It emphasizes that La ilaha illallah requires not just verbal affirmation, but active kufr, disbelief or rejection of all false deities, all tawakkul.
Active disbelief.
Yes. The text stresses that if someone says the words but still has doubt or hesitates or doesn't firmly reject other objects of worship in their heart and actions, then the mere utterance hasn't fulfilled its condition. Their life and property, in the context of the early Islamic state being discussed, wouldn't have the same sanctity.
That's quite a high bar. It's not passive belief.
It's not. This is presented as a real aha moment in understanding the declaration. It's not just acknowledging God exists or is one. It demands this active rejection of everything else. The source calls this understanding the greatest, clearest explanation, leaving no room for dispute about the core meaning.
So for you listening, this transforms La ilaha illallah from maybe just a phrase you hear or say into this powerful active commitment, a commitment that demands you constantly check. Am I truly rejecting all false reliances and affirming God alone in my heart and actions?
That's the challenge it presents, yes.
Okay, finally, the source seemed to touch on even more subtle forms of shirk, things that might seem almost harmless everyday practices.
Right. It includes a specific chapter on practices like wearing strings or rings or amulets for protection against misfortune or illness. The chapter title itself calls this shirk.
Wearing a lucky charm, basically.
Essentially, yes. Things worn with the belief that the object itself can ward off harm or bring good fortune, independent of God's will.
What evidence does it bring for this?
It quotes that powerful Quranic verse again. Say, "Have you considered that which you invoke besides God? If God intended me harm, would they remove his harm? Or if he intended me mercy, would they withhold his mercy?" It points out the powerlessness of anything besides God.
And then the conclusion to that verse.
Say, "Sufficient for me is God, upon him relies those who rely." It brings it right back to Tawakkul, reliance on God alone.
Got it. Were there specific stories or hadith mentioned too?
Yes, there's a hadith from Imran ibn Hussein. The Prophet, peace be upon him, saw a man wearing a brass ring. He asked him, "What is this?"
Okay.
The man replied it was for al-Wahhab, which apparently meant weakness, perhaps in the arm or shoulder.
So like a medical bracelet almost, but with a belief in its inherent power.
Seems like it. And the Prophet's reaction was strong. He told him, "Remove it, for it will only increase you in weakness, and if you were to die wearing it, you would never prosper."
A stark warning.
Very stark. Now, it's important to note the source material itself mentions that this specific narrations chain is considered weak by hadith scholars.
Okay. So the story might not be authentically established.
The specific story's authenticity is questioned. There's also another hadith mention from Uqba ibn Amir saying things like, "Whoever hangs an amulet, may God not complete his affair, and whoever hangs a cowrie shell, may God not grant him peace." That one is also noted in the source as being weak.
So even though these specific examples might have issues with their chains of narration, the principle itself is what the chapter is emphasizing.
Exactly. The underlying principle, drawn from the Quranic verses and the overall understanding of Tawhid, is the key takeaway. Relying on objects or charms for protection or benefit, attributing power to them, goes against the concept of relying solely on God. It's about the intent and belief behind the action.
It's about where you place your ultimate trust.
Precisely. Even if specific stories used to illustrate it are debated, the core theological point about avoiding superstitious reliance and perfecting tawakkul remains central.
So for you listening, this is a call to critically look at maybe some everyday practices or beliefs you hold. Are you placing trust in anything, an object, a ritual, a person, in a way that might subtly compete with your reliance on God alone for all benefit and harm?
It's about ensuring that trust is placed squarely where it belongs.
Wow, what a journey we've taken. We've really dug deep into the absolute core of Islamic monotheism, this concept of Tawhid. We've seen its purpose, the incredible rewards promised.
And the profound warnings against its opposite, shirk in all its forms, from the obvious to the subtle.
Yeah, we've seen how this isn't just, an abstract belief. It's presented as a complete way of life, something impacting your highest hopes, right down to maybe small superstitious habits.
It really boils down to singular devotion and that complete, unwavering reliance on God.
And this deep dive, drawing directly from these foundational texts like Kitab al-Tawhid, it really does offer a shortcut, I think, to being well-informed on something so central to the faith. The insights are genuinely challenging, but also enlightening.
Hopefully providing a clear perspective drawn straight from the source.
So let's leave you with a final thought to mull over. If Tawhid is all about recognizing and upholding God's unique rights, his absolute oneness, and shirk is anything that diminishes that, consider this: what everyday thoughts, habits, or even anxieties might subtly detract from that uniqueness in your own life. Where might you be giving weight or power or reliance to something other than God? And more importantly, how can you actively strengthen that singular focus on Him?